Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers. I'm Seth.
And I'm Zach.
And we are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
But I don't know why I udded there. Like it's funny. I feel like I'm trying to set myself up for something greater. But at the end of the day, I'm
what
still
could be
just
greater?
your brother.
What could be greater than the Classic Gaming Brothers, though?
But perhaps, I don't know, modern gaming brothers.
The modern gaming brothers?
Yes. far less classy or classic.
Yeah.
And far more, all they do is talk about Call of Duty.
That's right.
I mean, nothing wrong with Call of Duty. Call of Duty it could be a fun game.
Anyway.
But yeah, anyway, so this is another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers, episode 7?
8.
Episode 8. Sorry, for some reason I thought I was back in time. So, Zach, why don't you take us away with what you've been playing recently?
Yeah, so recently I've been playing Doom VFR for the PSVR, which has been pretty fun. I'm not super far in it yet because I'm still kind of getting acclimated to it, to the controls and such. Acclimated to it? Yeah, one of my...
Acclimated.
I'm still getting used to the controls, and so Doom VFR, it's different than the normal Doom 2016 game in terms of storyline. You're not like playing through the full 2016 game in VR. It's an entirely different story, but you're playing as a guy who gets killed off pretty quickly at the beginning of the game, and then your body's put into this like chassis for maintenance robots, and then you gotta go kill demons.
To explain like the VR mechanics.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the VR mechanics in the game is it's point to teleport, which took a little bit of time to get used to, but this game makes it incredibly smooth in the sense that they actually use it for combat. So in Doom 2016, you have the glory kills where if you shoot something enough, it'll start glowing, and then you can do a pretty brutal takedown of the creature. Right. Where in this game, you can use it to telefrag, a la old games like was it Quake and stuff like that back in the day.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, so you just teleport into the demon, and it didn't kill it that way.
Does there a guy come over the mic and is like telekill or like
sadly no, which would have been very exciting.
Like a good Quake kind of thing.
To go along with buying the game, I also picked up a PlayStation Aim, which is a controller type for the PSVR. It looks like a rifle.
So like that helps.
Yeah, and that helps the gameplay, in my opinion. It's very smooth in terms of how the rifle like movements react to the in-game movements of your character's gun. Makes it very satisfying to shoot demons.
So what is it's VFR? What's the VFR stand for?
So it stands for very word that I probably shouldn't say, and then reality.
Oh, I got you. So it's VR with it's Doom. So there's
it's Doom.
yeah, that's fair. It's almost kind of like like Duke Nukem kind of.
Yes,
Duke Nukem type of attitude, I guess.
Yeah,
Doom, I think takes itself a little more seriously than Duke Nukem.
Well, I mean, considering Doom gave us the BFG,
that's true. That's true.
I think it is kind of
big,
more in line.
Freaking gun.
That's right. That's right.
You can fill in the blank.
Yes. So yeah, and that's been pretty fun. Anyway,
nice.
Seth, what have you been playing?
So I, in fact, went and bought The White Door when it came out. I talked about it when I was excited about it in episode 7, which was the last episode. And it came out. I bought it for $3.40, and which is a pretty reasonable price. It was actually on sale. I think it was on sale for like 15% or something like that. So it's I didn't know it. Yes, it is on sale 15%. So it's going to MSRP at $3.99, and I bought it for $3.39.
Oh, nice.
I didn't actually know it was done by the Rusty Lake developer until I bought it. Are you familiar with Rusty Lake?
Not really, no.
So Rusty Lake makes a bunch of adventure games on the Android, and they're like escape room type of adventure games.
Oh, okay.
They do like, I think there's like the cube and stuff like that, and there's like the lake and the river. They're all named after like locations that you can go to. It's like the cabin, the lake, and you're trying to get out of these locations, and they have really, it's a weird kind of trippy storyline. So
Yeah.
fortunately I played a little bit of before playing The White Door, or I'd been really confused because the storyline goes right along with that kind of trippiness where play in this you play this guy who's having some memory issues, and he's kind of trying to remember his memories, and he doesn't have any color, and he's trying to get like color into his life, and you help him develop that color. And it's very like drawn graphics. It's cute. It's fun. If you haven't played the Rusty Lake stuff, I recommend checking out their like 8 other games before playing this one. Most of their games are actually free, or at least easy to get on the Android or Google Play or whatever mobile store you use. Just look for like Rusty Lake games. Check them out first, see if you like it before you spend any money with them. And then if you like it and you enjoy that type of style game, I recommend picking up The White Door. If you don't like it, then just pass it along.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But it ran me about, I don't know if I meant, it took me about 2 hours to beat. So it was a pretty quick play through.
Yeah, so you can definitely play that in one sitting.
Absolutely. There are achievements, so there's secret things that I didn't get all, so I could go back and replay and try and get those achievements to get it to be like 100% experience. But I've got some other stuff kind of on my plate right now, so I probably won't actually get back to the game, and I don't know if I'll ever get back to the game, but there's that.
Well, to get into the kind of meat of our podcast for today, last week we talked about the Sega Genesis and our memories growing up with it, which was Seth and my first video game system. And we made mention of the fact that we did have a Nintendo growing up. We had the original Nintendo, the NES.
The NES,
or the
Nintendo
NES.
Entertainment System.
That's right. And we got that after we had the Sega Genesis. So we're going to talk a bit about that today. And Seth, what are some of your memories of the NES? I think if I remember correctly, I think we got it from like a church tag sale or something.
We did. It
Yeah.
was used from a church. I don't even know. It was a church. Yeah, it was used from a church tag sale. And it was definitely purchased well after we had a Sega Genesis. And our parents were kind of proponents of only having one game system in the house, and they bought us a Sega Genesis, so they weren't going to buy us a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo. We played Super Nintendos at our aunt's and our friend's house, and but the tag sale the Nintendo was cheap, so by that time the games were already old, because it was a church tag sale. So they were someone was putting it up for sale, and we ended up, I think, getting a couple of games with it, and I don't think we may have picked up one game later. But
Yes.
I remember stark disappointment because one of the games that we got was Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. And it came in the gold cartridge. Now, but Legend of Zelda, the original Nintendo game that came out in 1986, also came in a gold cartridge. And when I went over to one of my friend's house when I was younger than the time that I was when we bought this entertainment system, I watched him and I played a little bit of the original Legend of Zelda. So then, when we bought this Nintendo Entertainment System that came with a Legend of Zelda cartridge, or at least a gold cartridge to my mind, I said, "Oh, this is great. This is the game, or maybe a sequel to the game." And then we booted up, and let me tell you, if you're not familiar with Zelda 2 of the Adventures of Link, it's a fine game. It's just not The Legend of Zelda. If you're expecting Legend of Zelda, You are not going to get that with Zelda 2.
Right, yeah. It's a very different game than The Legend of Zelda.
Yes.
In all fairness for Nintendo, it was the second Zelda game, so they were probably just trying to, like, throw stuff at the wall and see what stuck. Just like, hey, we got it right the first time. Let's see if this one works. Hey, that one doesn't work. So,
yeah, The Legend of Zelda is if you're for some reason not familiar with the classic original game, The Legend of Zelda is a game that's like top-down view. You play as a character, name whatever you want, but his name is Link, and he is trying to rescue a princess being held captive by an evil person who I believe is still Ganondorf in the original. And you're given a sword by a wizard, a la Merlin, who goes, take this. That's the iconic scene of take this, and it will help you along with your quest. And you hold up the sword, and you go out and you fight bad guys, top-down view, and you gain powers to be able to throw your sword. Zelda 2, that is not that game. Zelda 2, you still play as Link, or whatever you wish to name your character, and it's a side-scroller where you have to navigate the map, and every time you do like an encounter or a dungeon, you have to side-scroll your way through it, stabbing things in front of you, and sometimes, like, if you have enough magic, you can shoot a little bit of a sword in front of you. It's good. It's all right. I mean, it's fine. It's fine for what it is.
It's a different game. It definitely, if you were going into it expecting the first Legend of Zelda game, you would probably be a little disappointed.
Yes, which is what I was. So no flack at me. Actually, I think what's interesting is the difference between how Nintendo and Sega sold their games. So I remember Sega, their games came in like plastic VHS kind of cartridges.
Yeah.
And they're almost like souped up DVD cases almost. Like they're just
like clamshell kind of.
Yeah, clamshells. Cases. But the Nintendo, they sold them in like cardboard boxes with like plastic sleeves. Stored them in like a specialty Nintendo storage system.
Yeah, and a lot of one of the reasons why even today boxed NES games are considered sometimes a little more expensive or more rare than unboxed ones is because most of the time people just threw out the box because it was cardboard. So
right,
where you want to do that with the Sega because the Sega boxes were all really nice plastic and hard plastic and they looked nice on your bookshelf.
Yeah, and destroyed the environment if you threw them out instead of
exactly. Yeah.
The other games that we received with that original box purchase or container purchase that we bought with the original Nintendo's entertainment system was Super Mario Bros. / Duck Hunt, and maybe that might have been where we also got Airwolf because I don't think our parents would have bought Airwolf.
I don't know why our parents would buy us Airwolf, considering we never watched the TV show that Airwolf was apparently
I think it
based
just
on.
came with the original. I think it came as a set of 3 games and the system. So we could talk about Airwolf because I think we got more stuff. I think there's a lot more to talk about when it comes to Mario versus Airwolf.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I know about Airwolf, at least from my recollection, was that it was a helicopter game.
Which is funny because we also had Desert Strike and Jungle Strike. We had a lot of helicopter games fighting terrorists.
For two children who were obsessed with trains, we had a lot of helicopter-based video games.
It's true.
We had no train-based video games.
No train games.
Until, like, Lego Loco. But,
do you ever? Oh, Lego Island. I'm just thinking about that. Oh.
Anyway, in Airwolf, it's not really I think it's like kind of like a flight sim of sorts.
It looks based on looking at the script, like the pictures and the images of it. To me, it just looks like some precursor to like a Desert Strike type game.
Yeah,
it came out in 1985, and the Legend of Zelda came out in 86. Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link came out in 87. So the Nintendo Entertainment System is an older system to the Sega Genesis, since the Sega Genesis is actually really competing against SNES, which is the Super Nintendo system.
Yeah. But then we have, of course, we had the Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt game, and then we eventually got Super Mario Brothers 3.
Yes.
For the system, which came out in 1998 originally, which I remember to be a really fun game for some of the secrets that you could find, such as in one of the castles, if you use the tail power to fly, you can fly up above the level, and there's actually a secret doorway up there that will give you the flute so that you can skip worlds.
Yeah.
Kind of a way to jump around in the game, which was fun to discover. I mean, back then, well, we had a computer that I don't know if it could access it could access Netscape, but back then finding secrets like that wasn't as easy as it was nowadays, where you have YouTube or walkthrough videos and stuff like that. There wasn't anything like that back when we were playing the NES.
Right, and actually there was a large market for strategy guides that you could have to physically purchase. What was that? There was a company that did it. I don't know. It started with a P, I think, or something. I don't know.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there was definitely a strategy guide company that made strategy guides that you purchase. But I liked that. I liked being able to find those, and you could actually, they had that in Super Mario Bros. They had a similar type of. There was that where you could go above the world and go to the different pipes.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and then you could skip ahead to different worlds. I think Mario's always had kind of a skip system built into it, but then I feel like then you don't have the natural progression, and then you're overwhelmed by the difficulty of the level.
Oh yeah, especially with Super Mario 3, where if you get to the last world 8, you go into these levels where the whole world is the whole level is constantly moving. There's all these tanks, and all the tanks are shooting bullet bills and these cannons at you all at once, and you have to dodge them crazily. So if you don't have any lives stocked up because you skipped a whole bunch of worlds, you're SOL. You're going to lose pretty quickly.
Right. Right.
So it's hit or miss if you wanted to use the cheats, but it was cool to be able to discover those cheats, because that was kind of finding something unique.
And I think it also helped you could get to a world that maybe if you were not that good of a player of Mario, then you could see a world that you would maybe never see.
Yeah, exactly.
Never get past a certain point, except maybe through these cheats. So I did appreciate that Super Mario Bros. Came with Duck Hunt. And I feel like Super Mario Bros., and I feel like this with most of the Super Mario series, is that it's difficult enough that it doesn't necessarily have to be a super long game. It's just hard enough so that you never get past a certain point, so then it feels like it's indefinite.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
It goes on forever. It may be only 8 levels, but if you can't get past level 6, it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, that's what I definitely remember with Super Mario Bros. I remember clearly the first level being able to beat that without any issue. Then the underground level, and that's the level that you can get over and get to the pipes, and then you could get to I'm trying to remember a world. So I'm trying to not blend the two Super Marios together. So then in Super Mario Brothers, you could go. I don't think you can go to a Fish World. I think Fish World was Super Mario Brothers 3.
Well, there was underwater levels in Super Mario Brothers, but in the original one. But there was also, at least for me, the level that used to always screw me up was you'd get to this one level and it had the Lakitu, he's called. He looks like a little guy in a cloud, and he throws these red spiny creatures at you that you can't jump on anymore. And he just chases you the whole level, throwing these guys at you, and you have to sprint to the end of the level because the time is slightly less than it should be, and it's everything is awful, and it's you're going through these nice evenly paced levels in the beginning, then you skip a bunch of them, and then you're in anxiety ridden, crazy, everything being thrown at you.
Yeah, I remember that level. I definitely remember those spiky things falling from the sky. But then, if you were getting sick of playing, Super Mario Brothers, then you had the option of playing Duck Hunt.
Yeah, and Duck Hunt was really cool.
So Duck Hunt, you had to play with the light gun, and I don't know if a light gun would work with modern day TVs.
They don't. So there has been some recent innovation in attempting to get light guns to work with modern TV, but they mostly involve using Arduinos and like onboard processors and stuff like that. So right now the technology is just a little too expensive to mass produce. Right. Because for people who don't know, the way a light gun works is it's a fairly simple process. The gun is hooked up as like a controller to the system, and when you pull the trigger, it actually flashes the screen for a split second black, except for the item that you're supposed to be shooting, which will appear as a white square, and the gun looks for that white square, and when the light is detected by the gun's sensor, then you get the point. So the reason this worked on CRTs is because CRTs have a faster refresh rate than modern televisions did. So when you pulled the trigger, it would be an instantaneous click. Whereas if you're playing on a more modern TV, an LCD screen or something like that, there's actually a slight lag on using older hookups and such, and it's not as precise as it was on a CRT back in the day. So the lag makes it pretty much impossible to get the gun to respond properly.
But our modern day TVs don't emit radiation, such as the CRTs did.
Also, our modern day TVs don't weigh a bajillion pounds.
That's also true.
So there are definitely pluses. And nowadays we have VR, so
sure you can play Duck Hunt. I'm sure you can play Duck Hunt in VR.
There's actually a game called Duck Season, which is like a Duck Hunt in VR game that has like a horror twist to it. Where like the dog like comes to hurt you if you shoot him, sort of thing.
Oh, that's terrible. Shoot the dog.
Yeah, because so in Duck Hunt, in Duck Hunt, there's the dog who fetches the ducks, and if you miss the duck, he laughs at you.
He laughs at you, yeah. But
and it's annoying. But you can't shoot the dog in the original game. So in this game, Duck Season, you can shoot him, and if you do shoot him, he will come and haunt you.
Oh, nice. Is that on Steam or?
I think it might be on Steam. Yeah, it's a VR game.
It might be something I'm gonna look up immediately and
yeah,
play that game. And so then Super Mario 3 was a more advanced Super Mario Bros. So there was 4 Mario games that are on the Nintendo Entertainment System that I'm aware of. Zach can correct me because Zach's better at knowing how many games are on stuff. There's Mario Bros, which came out in 1983. Super Mario Bros. That came out in 1985 that sometimes or always got split with Duck Hunt.
Yeah, pretty much.
Always or no? Do you know?
Most of the time. There are standalone cartridges, but it was bundled with the Nintendo Entertainment System after a certain point with Duck Hunt. So tends to be the most common cartridge.
And then there's Super Mario Brothers 2, and then there's Super Mario Brothers 3. 2 and 3 came out in 1988. Together. One came out and then the other one came out immediately after.
So just the biggest difference or the biggest thing that Seth would be missing, but most people in America wouldn't know, is that Super Mario Brothers 2 that we got in America is actually different than the one in Japan. And this is kind of like common lore for people who are really into Mario Brothers, but in Japan they got Super Mario Brothers 2 closer to the release of the original Mario Brothers, and it played a lot like the original game, except it was a lot harder. So when they were deciding to bring Super Mario Brothers 2 to America, they opted not to use the original one, and they did a graphical change to a already existing game in Japan called Doki Doki Panic, where they replaced the sprites with Mario characters, and just released that as Super Mario Brothers 2. And that was and that's the version we got. We did eventually get the original Super Mario Brothers 2 on a cartridge for the Super Nintendo called Super Mario All Stars, and there was a section of that game called the Lost Levels, and that is the original Super Mario Brothers 2.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the original Super Mario Brothers 2 on the Famicom, which is the Japanese name for the Nintendo, is pretty much like the original Super Mario Brothers. It's just incredibly difficult. It is longer, and the levels make less sense. So
Right. And for people's memories, just if you're trying to separate all the Super Mario Brothers, because I sometimes have difficulty like separating the Super Mario Brothers. So Super Mario Bros. I hope that like the original one, Duck Hunt, or the first one, and then the second one was Duck Hunt. But Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 2, was the one with the turnips
yes, yep.
and the like jumping up on the platforms and the logs, and the Shy Guys came into play in Super Mario Brothers 2, and those stupid toucan birds
Yes,
jumping around,
yep.
and the POW button, and
You can also play as like Luigi and Peach and Toad, which was kind of unique. You could play as these other characters who all had different abilities.
Right.
Luigi could jump higher, Peach could glide, Toad was Toad.
and you got versus mode in it too, didn't you?
I think so,
Which
yeah.
was the first, because the POW button was there. You definitely got versus mode in 3.
In 3, you got versus mode, which was pretty much a version of the original Mario Bros.
Just duking it out
Yeah.
with each other. Super Smash Brothers, essentially.
yeah, it's like early Super Smash Brothers.
The first Super Smash Brothers. And then Super Mario Brothers 3, for our audience, is the one with the with Mario on the cover in his like raccoon outfit, flying raccoon
Yeah, in
outfit.
Japan they're called Tanuki, but yeah, it's a raccoon.
Yes.
Yeah, he's wearing a Tanuki suit with he has a little
Tanuki suit. Yep.
Yeah, he has the little tail.
Yes, the Tanuki suit. So that's just so if you guys are wondering like which one we're talking about. Oh, I'm looking at some screenshots for Super Mario Brothers 2, and I'm seeing the creature that shot the egg.
Oh,
To
Birdo.
like to like jump on the egg.
Yeah, he had to jump on the egg and then throw
Noxious.
the egg at Birdo. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy was an interesting boss for sure.
Imagine if we got that game instead of Super Mario Brothers, and we had that and
VR?
Zelda 2. It's like we just had the
VR or
games that
just- Oh
no,
or
and
just
like
got those games.
regular. Yeah.
Oh, for the games that we grew up with, or
Yeah. Imagine if we got like Super Mario Brothers 2 and Zelda
And
2,
Zelda 2,
and we
I
just
mean,
had
it
the
wouldn't be
two
anything.
weird sequels.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it past our parents. Mario Brothers 3 I actually enjoyed because the level selection was a map, and you could kind of path out where you wanted to go instead of going in sequential orders. So you could be like, oh, I want to go to 1, level 2, maybe level 4, go to the hut, then go back and do level 3, or just go to level 2, then go to the castle. Like, you should do things sequentially, but it was cool that you were able to pretty much every zone figure out your own, have some modicum of choice.
Yeah,
Choice is always good.
it allowed for kind of different options on how you'd play the game, and you can kind of play it differently one time around versus the other, and see kind
Right.
of how you do.
Yeah, I think I think actually out of all the Super Mario Brothers, I think 3 was probably my favorite favorite game out of them. What about you, Zachary?
Out of all the Super Mario Brothers, I think 3 is also my favorite. It just offers more to the game the original didn't have, and that 2 doesn't have. You don't have all the other characters like you do in 2, but you do have a bunch of new like abilities and stuff like that. You can unlock the tail so that you can fly. I think you can get this one power that puts you in like a boot, and you can like jump around. So there's a bunch of different like I think there's like a frog one that turns you into a frog. And
Yeah.
you can, like hop around and stuff like that.
And
So there's
the boot and the boot.
yeah, and the boot, yeah. So there's a bunch of different like abilities and stuff, and it kind of introduced what became like what I would call like the quintessential Mario, where most Mario games kind of took their inspiration from 3 going forward, and they took it less from the original, in terms of power ups and abilities.
Now I'm looking at different stuff. I was trying to get some memories of Mario Brothers, the original. It looks like that was an arcade classic series.
Yeah, so the
And
original
so-
Mario Brothers was just an arcade game, yeah, and then it was brought over to the Nintendo as part of its arcade classic.
Oh,
line.
okay, I gotcha. And then, and we would be remiss to talk about Mario without going back to the origins of Mario. So
That's right.
for our listeners, Mario came from Donkey Kong. the 1981 Donkey Kong arcade game, and he was a unnamed, kind of referred to as Jumpman protagonist of the Donkey Kong game. So Donkey Kong was the villain, and he would climb up to the top with the princess and throw barrels. And you would play as Mario, Jumpman, and you would climb up and try to get to the top. Very similar, I think. It's kind of Wreck-It Ralph kind of plays onto that.
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph kind of was inspired by that.
Yeah, it pays homage to homage to Donkey Kong. I think because Wreck-It would be Donkey Kong and Fix-It Felix would be Mario.
And a cool fact about Donkey Kong is the whole design of Mario was entirely just based on limitations at the time in terms of graphics. He was given a mustache so that they could have his nose appear more prominent. He was given a hat because they didn't have enough pixels to work with designing his hair. And he was giving overalls because they wanted to show his arms moving. And if his arms were the same color as his shirt, you wouldn't see the arms moving. So they gave him overalls to allow the movement. And that kind of defined what we know as the image of Mario: mustache, hat, and overalls. So it was all just because they had limitations in terms of the color palette and the graphics they were working with.
And that limitation, actually, I think we miss out on that with modern games, because that limitation has brought some iconic things that people don't necessarily know. Like the Fallout PC game, the original Fallout game, you have a blue vault suit. If you're not a Fallout player, you're a survivor, post-apocalyptic world, we'll have an episode and go into the Fallout series. But you wear a blue suit. And the reason you wear a blue suit was because the producer of the game went to one of the designers and said, listen, if you're not using this color blue, we got to get rid of it. We'll take it out of the spectrum that you can have because we have only so much of a limit of a supply of colors that we can actually use in the game because of the amount of space and stuff like that. And so he's like, okay, and used blue to make all the suits for the vault suits, and was like, there you go, now I'm using blue, so then I can use it in other parts of the game. So I always thought it's always interesting to find out about reasons why something is like that vault suit is iconically blue. Mario iconically has a mustache and a hat. So I think it's interesting because those were brought on by limitations that they kind of stick with that character.
Definitely. I mean, it shows you just kind of the creativity of game designers and programmers at the time, that they had to work around these limitations in order to give something that was playable and that looked good.
Sometimes you can't work around your time constraints or something, and you end up with a game like E.T., but that's a story from another time.
Yeah, that's a story for our worst video games. So there are also a couple of hidden gems on the NES that Seth and I didn't grow up with, but I've had the opportunity to play later. One being Sweet Home, which was originally released, I was actually pulling that up. It was originally released in Japan back in 1989 by Capcom. It's a role-playing game that isn't like other role-playing games that were released at the time. So Sweet Home is based on a movie that was released in Japan of the same name, and it's about a group of teenagers who go to a house and they get locked inside, and the house is haunted, and they have to kind of figure their way out. And it introduced a couple of really interesting mechanics that would later get used in future games such as Resident Evil and Silent Hill, and later role-playing games and other horror games. One of the mechanics that was interesting that at least shows up in other horror games and role-playing games of kind of the similar nature is in Sweet Home. In most RPG games, when your character dies, there's a way to bring them back. If someone in your party dies, Final Fantasy, you get a Phoenix down, and you'll bring them back. In Shining Force, I think you go to the church and you stay there overnight and you bring them back. In Sweet Home, if a party member dies, they are dead permanently throughout the rest of the game, and that's it. And the only way to bring them back is if you have to restart the game from scratch. And that's kind of like a really interesting mechanic because some of the characters have abilities that you need for progressing in the game. Like certain characters have certain items and stuff like that. There's a character who's a photographer and you need to use his camera to unlock certain things. So you have to make sure you keep the photographer around, or at least his camera around, so that, you know, you can get through certain parts of the game. So I think that's kind of interesting way of playing an RPG. It was never released in America because RPG games weren't really super successful as Capcom had hoped, so they didn't see the point in bringing it over. But there has been unofficial fan translations you can find on the internet. The other game that I think is kind of a hidden gem is actually a more recent game. It's called Battle Kid in the Fortress of Peril. It was created by a company called Sivak, and they released it in 2010. And it's what you might call a homebrew for the NES. And it plays a lot like a Flash game that was popular around the time called I Wanna Be the Guy, which were this kind of hardcore of a sense game that was platformers, but it was very easy to die. It was one hit, one kill sort of thing. And it takes a lot of inspiration from that game and from games like Mega Man. It's just a fun platformer. Very, very difficult, but not in a unfair kind of way. It's difficult in a very rewarding way, so that when you get past, you know, certain levels, you actually feel really good about it. And it is 10 years old, which is kind of cool. You know, it's not that old of a game. So you can pick that up off of I think their website has cartridges for sale still.
That's interesting that there's still some more recent NES games, because all a cartridge is a plastic housing, and then there's like the game is like flashed onto a like almost like just a stick of RAM or something.
Yeah,
like that.
pretty much. Yeah, on an EEPROM chip, which is then put into the you know, onto a little motherboard of sorts.
Yeah, it's almost and then the system, the console interprets that, and the controller goes into like an input. And if you've actually opened up like a Nintendo, the simpler the cartridge, the simpler the console, the less complicated it is. So like some of them are just plastic housing really, and then maybe like a small chip or something like that, and then the input, the controllers would need input sections, and it would have a basic BIOS to be able to communicate, you know, to take your inputs and turn them into actions. But beyond that, it's interesting as we have migrated from cartridge-based systems to DVD systems, essentially.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And the games have gotten not necessarily better, but bloatier.
Yes, 100%. Well, going into the bloatier games, is there any game that you're interested in, Seth?
Yeah,
actually, in terms of our buy weight pass.
Buy weight pass. So the buy weight pass segment. There's actually a game that I'm interested in because I saw it at PAX. Actually, so every year I go to PAX East, which is the Penny Arcade Expo. I go with a bunch of friends. Zach, if you're around this year, feel free to come on down with us. You could check out a day or two there. I'll be going. If any of our listeners is going to PAX, feel free to hit us up. We can meet up, and I'll be toting some, at least my own personal merch. Representing myself. But there's a game that I saw either last year or the year before. It was last year because I still had the pamphlet, called Close to the Sun, which it is 1897, and deep in international waters, a ship called the Helios stands stills. And Helios was born of Nikola Tesla's vision as a haven of the great scientific minds, a la BioShock.
Ooh!
And you play as the journalist Rose Archer, who step aboard the Helios in search for her sister Ada, and discovers that it's not all that she seems, and there's just the single word quarantine painted on the entrance. So it's a challenging puzzler, mature type game. It looks like there's going to be some adventure. The tags in Steam are adventure, indie, gore, and violent. It's planned release date is 2020, so it's coming out this year. It already has a 65 on a Metacritic, though I don't know actually where that 65 would have come out on. Since I don't think it released anywhere else. But anyway, maybe it's a port. I don't know. It's not out on PC. According to Kotaku, Close to the Sun is an indie BioShock without the combat.
Oh, that's interesting.
So maybe it looks like it's, according to Games Radar, it's a little bit of BioShock and a little bit of Soma. That kind of game is for me. I like a little bit of BioShock and I like a little bit of Soma. I'm going to put it on a wait. I don't think it's going to be a game that once it gets launched I'm going to immediately grab up, but it definitely feels like it's for me. I like kind of noirish. I like kind of like dark horror type of games. I like the type of like abandoned vessels. I like big ships because I'm a Titanic guy. So
yeah.
Like, boom, like it sounds like just the game for me. So yeah, but still, so we'll put on a wait. It's got a lot of high expectations. I'm not 100% sure it's going to fall through on them, but we'll find out.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It looks interesting from the screenshots I just pulled up. So,
yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
What about you?
Keep on the radar.
What's your game for the buy wait pass?
Yeah, so my buy wait pass is Minecraft Dungeons, which is an upcoming dungeon crawler from Mojang Studios. It's developed by Mojang and being published by Xbox Game Studios. It's part of kind of it's not necessarily the same as like standard Minecraft. It's not a building game. It's not a crafting game. It's actually a dungeon crawler where the player will explore randomly generated dungeons filled with monsters, or as they're called in Minecraft, mobs, M-O-B, and you'll have to like deal with puzzles and traps and finding treasure and kind of just general dungeon crawling. Some of the gameplay reminds me a lot of Gauntlet Legends for the N64.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the players. The one difference that it is from most dungeon crawlers is that there's no class system, so players can use any weapon or armor that they wish. But that kind of also means that you'll have to coordinate with anyone you're playing with to see who's better at what weapons and stuff like that. You kind of have to create your own class in that regards.
Right. And it's the same like Minecraftian graphics.
Yeah, so it's all done to look kind of like Minecraft. It's actually built in Unreal, so it's going to probably run way smoother than Minecraft has ever run in its life. But it looks like they're keeping kind of that same very pixely, square, everything square, Lego style almost graphics. Right now, I think I'm at a kind of a wait pass on it. Not a full pass, but it looks really, really cool. I haven't gotten much strong interest in picking it up. So, like, it looks cool. I just don't know if I'm going to get it. It might be one of those games that I see, 5 years down the line, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when that came out. I'll pick it up now, sort of deal. I might be wrong. I might pick it up sooner if it seems like it's doing really well, or if people are telling me, got to pick it up, Zach. It's great. But right now, it's kind of I'm on a more of a wait pass of a pass. Yeah, almost a full pass.
A full pass.
Yeah.
We actually, I don't think we've actually. This might be our first full pass on a game.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it looks like it's going to be cool. It looks like it's going to be fun. I'm not like expecting anything that out of the ordinary, but it's not right away like in the radar of games I want to buy. So it's like out in that area of like, oh, that looks cool, I'll get it eventually, sort of deal. Right. Like, if I get it as a gift, that would be cool. If I don't, whatever.
Yeah. Well, what's fun is but it's somebody who's listening might really like the Minecraft genre, or it may not know about something coming out, or might be interested in a type of like Gauntlet Legends type game. Or maybe looking for a party-ish game, I guess.
Yeah.
Does it have local co-op?
It appears like it's going to have local co-op. Yeah.
Yeah. Local co-op's always good.
So. And honestly, if you're into dungeon crawlers, like it looks kind of like they're doing it more like, like what I said, like Gauntlet Legends or Crawl is a more recent dungeon crawler. I actually really like Crawl. So if you're really into dungeon crawlers, it might be for you. Right now, I'm just not. It's not in my general
which
radar.
is fine. Yeah. So that's it. That's it for today.
Yeah, I think so.
We as always, we have many ways that you can A, listen to us, B, contact us, and C, support us. So first off, for A, to what was it? Did I say contact us first? So contact us through classicgamingbrothers@gmail.com. You can also comment send us messages on social media or through either Instagram or Facebook. You can contact us, listen to us. You can listen to us on any number of listening platforms. We fixed our Google Podcast issue. We had a minor issue with them, but that's been patched up and fixed. And we also went through and we are now uploading to our YouTube channel at Classic Gaming Brothers. Feel free to subscribe there. Right now we're just doing raw audio from the podcast with a logo. We're going to do that for a while, but we may have some supplemental material that we're working on eventually that we'll put out that may have some more visual stuff to our medium. So maybe we'll do absolutely. Like a 10, maybe a 20-minute video of going back to games that we talked about in the podcast and showing you either like Let's Plays or screenshots and stuff like that, and doing a different thing. There's just the two of us. We have a third guy who's our meme guy in chief, our meme poster in chief. I don't even know. So there's me and Zach. Zach does all the technical work. I do all the front the marketing work, as it were. And then we have our this guy named Josh, who's our meme poster. And then that's the whole team. So if we take on under any other projects, like more in-depth YouTube video, it's just gonna we just need to get time to do production for it. So there's that. And finally, you can support us by liking everything, ringing all of the bells, and sending us an email. We'll still be collecting feedback for our giveaway, and we do now have some swag. We have a very limited run on stickers. Hopefully we'll be getting more. And then there is all of that. So remember, don't play games like my brother.
And don't play games like my brother.
I've been Seth.
And I've been Zach.
And we've been the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
Why do we have even anything that's said at the end of that? Why do we even go back? We're like very much like the final word type people. Just end this thing. They don't want to hear us anymore.